Hello, and welcome to another episode of Fae, Fic, and Fiction, a magical bookish podcast for chaotic story goblins like us. This week, we are doing another round of fan fiction discussion. We want to talk about publishers marketing fanfic that they're publishing, writing fanfic, binding and resources, and also what are the ethical implications of that. And we've got a fun game planned. As always, we're your hosts, Crimson,
Molly, and Emmy.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
It's been a hot minute.
It has been a hot minute.
It has. It has been a long time, and it's mostly my fault for catching the plague. But I'm back. I sound a bit croaky, but I am here.
You sound so much better than you
I
have
do.
the past couple of weeks.
I do. I was sounding a bit like when I could talk, it was kind of like a contrast between a boy going through puberty because of like the voice cracking. And what did you liken it to, Emmy?
So whenever you coughed on Discord voice the other night, it sounded like, you know in Minecraft when you eat something?
That was it.
That's what you sounded like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's been like 3 weeks though, right? Since we last filmed. Nearly 4 now, I think.
It has, yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got 3 weeks to catch up on. I want to know what you guys have been up to, other than dying of the plague. I want to know what you've been reading. Starting with little sicky baby herself, Molly.
You're mean. So other than dying, I had my last week of in-person teaching. So I obviously teach at university. And now I'm about to start marking, and I'm sorry, just yawned. And I just exhausted, you know. And I am dreading it because marking is kind of like the bane of my existence. It is awful. But in terms of what I've been reading, I am on 77 books for the year.
Molly!
Wow.
Molly!
Wow.
Hi.
77!
We're not even halfway through.
Yeah.
How many
77.
did you read last year? It was like 214 or something, was it not?
I read 190 last year.
Oh my god. Molly. Wow.
So, yeah, we'll see what happens. At the moment, I'm reading The Demon's Queen by Katie Robert, which is her last book in A Deal with the Demon series. It is very good so far. I'm not that far in. But I've kind of been on a cozy monster romance kick recently. So I have started the Abandoned on Niflheim series by Jennifer Wood. I have also obviously read the newest book by Cass O'Shire, which was Gaming with the Gargoyle, and I was like kicking my feet. It was so freaking cute. Highly recommend that one if you are looking for like a more contemporary monster romance. I also read A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic. I mean, it's exactly up your alley. And then in addition to reading Gallant by V.E. Schwab, I also went through, it's kind of the norm for me, but I went through reading a ton of Pride and Prejudice variations, just because I think I was just in that place at that moment. But yeah, I'm on the monster romance kick at the moment. That's where it's going.
I love that. I mean, I can't believe you're on 77 books for the year. Like,
what?
See, I set my Goodreads and Fable goal at 150 because I've mentioned previously I didn't want to overwhelm myself. I'm over halfway to that point, so we'll see what happens. Fun updates. It's only May. It's the start of May.
Yeah. Oh my god. I mean, I'm so proud of you.
Thanks, babe. What about you? What have you been reading, Emmy?
So I'm on 38 books for the year. So we're doing okay. Crimson and I were actually on voice the other night because I've set like a pages goal rather than a book goal. So my pages goal is like 100 pages a day, and I was like, oh, I'm like 5,000 pages ahead. Oh, I'm only 5 days ahead, and then Crimson and I were looking at each other like, yeah, that seems accurate. And then we realized that it was like 50 days. And both of us were looking at each other like, this is correct.
That's a bit concerning, not gonna lie.
I would like to let the world know that I have a minor concentration in mathematics and 2 computer science degrees. And I was like, yeah, this makes sense.
I have a degree with finance included.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was great. Yeah, it was wonderful. I'm putting it down to like feral like exhaustion.
That's a given.
You know. So that was interesting. But yeah, I didn't really read an awful lot. Like since we had Suze on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. I've read really kind of nothing. But I have finished 3 books this week. So I've kind
Look
of
at
been back
you.
in the zone. So I finally finished The Rose Bargain. By Sasha
Was
Fierce
it good? I've heard such good things about it.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. I'm really glad that I picked it up when I did, because I was like, oh, I really need to read some books that I've had on my TBR the longest, but I was like, I've just got this very little copy. It's beautiful. I really want to read. It's stunning.
It's beautiful.
It's very much like, have you ever read like the series The Selection?
Yes.
So for Crimson's like knowledge, The Selection is like it's like where the prince needs to find a wife, and it's a 5-book series, and it's like I binged all 5 books in like 2 days. Like it's really quick
I did
to read.
too. Like
and it's like 5 girls are selected, and then he like dates them all and whittles them down. So it's kind of the same. The Rose Bargain is all about like the Fae, and it's like the Fae Queen. It's her son that's going to get married, and she gives them the choice. They can either like, it's a wee bit like Bridgerton as well. It's like they can either come out into society, and it's like the courting season, or they can enter a competition to be his wife, but they're not, if they fail and they're out, they're not allowed to take a husband ever.
Shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
If he doesn't choose them. It's really good.
That sounds
really
good.
Sounds fun.
It's really good. The baddies are interesting. I like it. But it was good. I rated it 4.5 stars. It's not one of those ones I'm like, oh, I'm 100% going to go back to that again. But also, it was really good. What else did I read? I'm just checking my little list. Oh no, I finished 4 books since the last time we spoke. I finally read Fearless. I read the last book of the Powerless series. Much better than the last one.
Good.
So for context, first book for me is a 3-star. The little novella was a 4.5-star. Then the next book was a 2 or a 1-star kind of like vibe. This book I would say was like a 4-star vibe.
Did Reckless kind of get middle child syndrome? Because that's what I'm feeling, like neglected middle child.
A wee bit. It was very much it dragged out so long. I like to describe Reckless as being like Deathly Hallows Part 1, because Deathly Hallows could have been one movie, except the whole entire first movie they're like camping. It was a wee bit like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then everything happens in the last like 30 pages. This one was much good. I cried twice.
Damn. Okay.
So yeah. It's really good. I would heavily recommend picking it up. Then I read First Time Caller by B.K. Borson. Finally. It was really good. I rated it a 4-star. It took me a while to get into it though, but I think it's because I was reading it on my breaks from lunch, like a breaks at work, a lunch at work. And I left it downstairs because I worked downstairs, and I would come up here and read something else, and then I kept forgetting to pick it up again, so it took me like 2 weeks to read it, but it was good. And then I read The Chase by Elle Kennedy. because I'm starting her Briar U series. 5-star. Obviously, 5-star. Anything by Elle Kennedy for me is like a 5-star.
Like, sign me up.
But what am I reading right now? I am reading. Is it A Vow in Embers? I feel like that's not right. What's her name? Helen something. I'm looking it up. The woman that wrote Blood and Steel, Helen Schurer.
Yes.
Iron
yeah.
and Embers. I'm reading Iron and Embers.
Okay.
5-star. I'm like halfway through it. It's so
Nice.
good. The like yearning and the like tension, and it's like the whole premise is like they kind of could have had a thing in the past and they kind of liked each other, but she wanted it casual and he said no, and then she sabotaged him and they became enemies, and now he's her bodyguard.
Oh.
So it's like past maybe lovers, high tension, enemies to assigned bodyguards to lovers, I think.
Nice.
Kicking my feet a lot. But yeah, that's where
Okay.
we are.
Yeah.
That is where we are. Crimson, what have you read in the last couple of weeks, my love?
How is Iron Flame?
This is still happening, by the way, guys.
Nothing's happening. Nothing's
I
happening. That's the
encouraged
answer.
Crimson to pick it up the other week. We were on live and I was like, look, babe, we're going to do sprints tonight. You could do one sprint on Iron Flame, or you could read like even read one page and then and she refused. She wanted to read Zodiac Academy and then proceeded not to read Zodiac Academy, by the way. Like,
I did read Zodiac Academy. Actually, I am like 50 pages into it.
Look at you.
Very good.
So proud of you.
Yeah, we're at the point now where honestly, the more you tell me to read it, I'm probably not going to read it. Like that's
upset.
I love this. It's just like spite at this point.
Yeah.
It's like, we just want you to finish it. You want me to finish it, so I'm just not going to finish it harder.
We'll all meet up in September and Molly and I will be like reading it to Crimson before bedtime just to get her to finish it.
A nice little bedtime story, sit your ass down.
We could read it together and do like a dramatic reenactment. We could do all the voices, Molly.
Okay, I'll be Zayden.
Oh my god.
My house, my throne, my woman.
Anyway, what I've actually been reading. So one of my friends wants to dive back into the Zodiac Academy universe. She especially wants to get past book 3 so that we can read Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac, which is a Why Choose spin-off series that is supposed to be really, really good. It's actually kind of funny because one of my other friends who's in like the same group of people, she didn't really enjoy Zodiac Academy that much. So like she's like, yeah, just keep going. It gets so good. And I'm like, I like trash. Like this, I'm having a great time. I don't need you to convince me. But I'm going back to the second book to make sure I remember all of the things that are happening, because even though the writing in Zodiac Academy is not like a top tier Nobel Prize winning writing, like the plots are actually kind of complicated
They're not
and interesting.
awful. Yeah, they're good.
So I need
I see
to like
what you meant
remember
before.
So I need to remember the political drama that's going on at this point, because I got like halfway through the third book before I softy enough, and then I'll probably keep going for a while, because if I remember anything about the last time, it had like a chokehold on me, and the only reason I stopped was because it was like SJM stuff was coming out. So so that's what I have been working on. I've also been watching a lot of TV and doing a lot of video games recently. So that's me.
I mean, let me know when you get to book 6, because I went on like a Zodiac binge a few months ago and then I kind of stopped and I haven't picked up book 6 yet. So when you get there, let me know and I might just pick it up like with you.
Cool. Yeah.
I need to start it. I haven't read it.
You'll blast through it in like a day, but I would like to read the spin-off series. And I know I'm not like a Why Choose girly. as we found out
It's putting it
previously.
mildly, babe.
Yeah.
But I am thoroughly enjoying Zodiac Academy, so I'm really like I'm open, I think.
Okay. All right. We'll see.
I'm open.
Yep. I am a wide shoes girly, so I know that I'm gonna.
Maybe we should like talk about some fanfic stuff.
So I think we have a variety of topics that we wanted to talk about after the last episode, but there is one topic as well that is a bit topical because this year we have several Hermione fanfics that are being traditionally published, and we also have a case with the irresistible urge to fall for your enemy, where it's not the exact fanfic that is being published. She's changed it quite considerably to where it's not really considered the same story, and her fanfic is able to remain posted. However, regardless, the publisher is sending out not even true marketing, but promo to bookstores for how to talk about the book that is kind of a primer on what the pairing is, what Hermione is, what this type of fan fiction is, what it's about, what these two are typically like in fanfic, and also just like kind of, for anybody who doesn't know, what is shipping? What is this whole thing? And this has caused kind of an insane amount of controversy. The internet is really upset. Fandom communities really seem to believe that this is a huge problem, and that publishers should not market books by describing them as fanfic or by connecting them to the fandoms that they came from. And so I think that bears discussion. What do we think? Do we think this is a real problem? Do we think people are overreacting? Do we think there are issues with marketing things as fanfic? And do we think that there is a problem with marketing Hermione fanfics that way in particular?
I think it's ridiculous. Just gonna say, I think it's so stupid that people are getting so upset about it. Now, I do understand that people are rightfully hurt by a certain author's actions, but I feel like penalizing these books for being fanfic or originating or having found like groundings in fanfic is just so unfair to the author. And it's just, it would be disingenuous not to say, oh, it started as a Hermione fanfic. Right? So there are so many facets to this problem, or like this argument. So obviously the first one being, by marketing it as Hermione, you are giving the author of the original series attention, and you're just like putting more money into her pocket, which is just false. Quite frankly, it's almost like the people that are making this argument have no idea about the fanfic community in general.
100%. Well, some of them are making that argument and they're in the community, but what I think a lot of people, I mean, I've said it before, I will say it again, and look, J.K. Rowling's an asshole. I don't like her.
Oh yeah.
Especially as she's gotten older and as she has refused to learn and grow and change her ways. But that ship has already sailed, babe. She's a billionaire. You cannot, like, it doesn't even, regardless of the fact that I don't believe this marketing is actually giving her attention she doesn't have anyway. It doesn't matter. Like, it honestly doesn't matter how much attention you do or do not give this person. She will continue donating millions of dollars to anti-trans causes no matter what we do. Like, it doesn't matter if we do or don't support Harry Potter or whatever. And at this point, all we do is create a lot of controversy, I think, around the people who are turning the fandom into something to be proud of instead of sitting in her bullshit. Because it's actually, to me, Harry Potter is so much bigger than the person who wrote it.
Yeah. I think Molly made a really good point when we were chatting about it earlier, in a way that and I have like a thought to go off the back of this. And it was the fact that, how do I explain this? It's the fact that obviously, yes, you're shining light on the Harry Potter fandom by comparing it to, Draco and Hermione and that sort of thing. However, it's giving you a way to read about that trope that you love without actually needing to support the author itself anymore. And then, I mean, I said this earlier, it's really interesting. I don't know whether it's like fanfic is the problem, because a lot of popular books that we know were started out as fanfic. Maybe it wasn't marketed that way, and it wasn't really public knowledge, but a lot of them did. And another thing is, if the issue is about, it being like a Hermione retelling, then what about all of the like other retellings?
Yeah.
ACOTAR being a Beauty and the Beast retelling, or you've got all of your Hades retellings, or etc. etc. Like, what is the issue with it being Hermione specifically?
Like, this isn't a new thing. It's not something that has only just arisen. Like, City of Bones is a Draco Ginny fan fiction.
Yeah.
So it's not something that has just come out of the woodwork. It's been like a firm process in the publishing industry. Like, a lot of authors find their roots in being fanfic authors first. And I think it's amazing that these extremely talented writers are actually getting noticed for the work that they put into it. Nobody works harder than a fanfic author.
And they shouldn't be shamed for that either.
No.
Like, I feel like there's this big stigma in like, oh, it's a published fanfic. Like, this is a fan fiction. Like, like this isn't real writing. This is fanfic. And I'm like, well, of course it's real writing. And like, whenever a lot of people are saying, oh, when it's marketed, they should be marketing themselves as an author, not as a fanfic author. And I'm like, why? Because they can be proud of their past accomplishments.
People are damn proud of being fanfic author.
Yeah, they are. So one thing I think is really interesting is I think we must have really different FYPs, because it sounds like I've seen some of what you're talking about where people are like, we don't need to be pointing out people are fanfic authors, like whatever, because of that reason. Like, there's this stigma. But what I've seen is actually a bunch of fanfic people who are like deeply steeped in it, who don't want authors to draw attention to the fact that they were fanfic. Like, they want fanfic to be this like insular space, and they almost like don't want people to find out about it, supposedly, one, because of the whole bringing attention to Harry Potter thing, but two, because they're worried about like it brings bad actors and it brings like the legality of it into question, and we don't want J.K. Rowling to pay attention to the fact that we exist. And I think that's also cuckoo bananas, because like,
she will know.
She knows it exists. She hates it. She hates it. She's made it
come to terms with it. She has made it known, but also that was like decades ago at this point. And at this point, it's been years since she's taken action against anybody, and like she doesn't care anymore. And so it's like, who cares? Like, who fucking cares? Also, these are being published by imprints of big 5 publishers. Do you really think that their legal department hasn't vetted all of this information? Like,
they're not going to give a fuck. I mean, like, I don't want to say it's not harder for fanfic authors to become published, but they are going to have those extra steps to make sure that the books that they publish are not going to get sued for copyright.
Yeah, of course.
Like, fanfics are not being sued for copyright because you have to preface, these characters were not made by me, and like this was like it's set in the world that's not made by me, whatever. But whenever they publish their own works, it has to be by them. And yes, they can use their previous ideas. I mean, what we're getting is not a Hermione fanfiction. What we're getting is a story that's based off the same vibes and tropes as a Hermione fanfiction. And I think that a lot of people are not realizing the work that these books have to go through to become piece of own work by the author that's not in relation to anything
they're
else.
having to adopt a similar universe but make it wholly their own. And I know that obviously that's something that Emmy pointed out when you read or tried to read the Hurricane Wars. So the Hurricane Wars started as a Reylo fan fiction, and if you're not a part of the Star Wars fandom, you may not know that the Star Wars universe is fucking massive. It's
it is.
huge. It is huge. It's quite literally universes of planetary systems. So the Hurricane Wars, she's having to come up with numerous different races, numerous different planets, numerous different, cultures. It's extremely difficult.
It was nothing
Yeah.
like Star Wars. Like, this is the thing, is like, this is what I said as well, is like, whenever you told me that it was Raylo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
whenever it was a Raylo fanfiction, I was like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
the book itself stands in its own right.
Yeah.
It also just tells me like how long it's been since some of these people, even if they're fandom people, have like thought about the actual primary source material, because Harry Potter fanfic in particular, at this point, the world that fandom has built is so much richer and more detailed than the world that J.K. Rowling built. That,
If
like,
you're a fanfic
you don't
reader,
have to do a whole lot to get away from her. I
No.
think
No.
you don't have to go very far.
if you go back and read Harry Potter after reading these fanfic worlds, you'd be like, what is this shit? This is boring as fuck. Like,
look, I was like, obviously it's no secret, I was a Harry Potter fan. I loved it growing up. I have moved away from like the original series just because of everything that's going on, and I don't want to perpetuate, the harmful rhetoric that she pushes out, so I don't talk about it. But fanfic, like, even though I was a massive like canon Harry Potter fan, some of the things that are like fanon, I'd confuse with canon and be like, oh yeah,
all the time.
Theo is the best character. It's like, wait, Theo is spoken about like maybe twice.
Oh, not.
But Theo like practically doesn't exist. Like,
he's a name. He has no description. He's a name. He has no description, and then he's mentioned one more time in Cursed Child in the canon. Yep.
They become so integral to the fandom, and they've created like their whole personalities behind these characters that the author could never have tried, never have created.
Actually, it's funny you bring that up, because it was just last week that one of my friends was like, I'm so confused because it feels like Blaze is black in every fanfic I read now, and he was black in the movies, but is it just because he was black in the movies? And I was like, no, he's actually described in the book as dark-skinned. However, he's only described one time in the 6th book, and we had his name before, so early fanfic usually made him white, so people in their brain have a picture of Blaze depending on when they started reading the books in the fanfic, because the fanfic he used to be described differently. But it's just like it's so hard to keep track of like all of these different little tidbits. Like, people forget that the mudblood on Hermione's arm, that doesn't exist. That's a movie thing. Draco eating apples is not a thing. Like, there's all kinds of little details that we've just added that feel like they're really part of the world.
Yeah.
Even when it comes down to like magical lineage, that's not really established in the canon, but we've established it very thoroughly in fanon.
Yeah.
It's just taken and developed.
It's a whole other entity to the original universe. And I had this conversation with somebody on Threads this past week, actually, and she's perfectly lovely. But she was like, there are 3 books that are coming out this year that started off as Harry Potter fan fiction, and I don't know if I can support the authors because of that. And I was like, right. I understand why, and I understand why you may feel that way, but it's a whole other entity, and you can't tar these amazing authors with the same brush as her just simply because they were Harry Potter fans when they were younger. Because then you're saying that everybody who has ever picked up a Harry Potter book, regardless of who they are and how they feel and their kind of like ideologies, are, TERFs, which is stupid, ridiculous, not accurate.
To be honest, and maybe this is a little harsh, but this is how I feel in the current political climate, being American. I every time I see something like this, every time I see someone on TikTok or Instagram just like loudly yelling about how much they hate JKR, or loudly yelling about how they can't possibly support anything Harry Potter, even if it's fandom, even if she makes no money off of it, I want to ask them how many times they've called their senator. I want to ask them, like, what are you doing in your life to actually help people? because just yelling into the void about how this one person is harmful when she has so much money you can't touch her.
Yeah.
Like, how are you helping anybody? Like, how does this help anybody for us to just get mad at, like, these authors didn't do anything except be in love with a world. Like, and
And you
decide to
can
create something new out
boycott
of it.
her, and you can
Yeah.
boycott all of the stuff that she writes and she produces and she has a hand in and disagree with her. But at the same time, like, okay, here's another thing, right? Is like, fanfic to me does not make me nostalgic for Harry Potter.
No.
Because fanfic is it's almost like the universe and this was the Hogwarts universe or whatever that's built is very different than that's in the books. The books is very surface
Exactly.
level. The fanfic is like, it's almost totally separate. If you
Mhm.
changed the names in a lot of fanfic and changed even just the name of the school,
Mhm.
it would
Yeah.
totally different. It would be
Yeah.
like reading a totally different book. And like, that's one thing I love about fanfic is that you can support the nostalgia and the world that you grew up with, but it's got nothing in relation to J.K. Rowling herself, because
The
I
woman
think
didn't invent the concept of a magic wand.
No.
Okay. Like,
no,
come
she
on.
did not.
It's
And
fine.
and to criticize and boycott these authors, the fanfic authors, but not the numerous other authors who were probably inspired by the Harry Potter books in creating their own books. I mean, think of Naomi Novik and her Deadly Education series. Think of all the authors that have spoken about how they grew up reading Harry Potter, or, you know, they read Harry Potter and they were like, this is the kind of thing that I want to do with my life. Not necessarily that the book is, you know, has elements of it, but just the fact that they were so moved by the world and the characters that they wanted to become an author. Are you also going to stop supporting them?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, being inspired by a problematic work is not a sin. So I don't understand why we're treating it like
Yeah,
it is.
and that leads us back to the same point of, that is what this is. The works will be inspired. You're not going to pick up these books and think, this is a Hermione fanfiction. Like, this is Hogwarts, this is Hogsmeade, this is whatever. Like, yes, they can have like inspirations, and yes, the ideas of these things. I mean, a really good sort of author for this actually is Sin Liu, because
Yeah.
I probably won't read Alchemized because I didn't enjoy Manacled,
Right.
but I also might read Alchemized because I didn't enjoy Manacled. And this has gone, so much work is put into this. And she's like, I love this idea, but I want it to be like an idea that I have written and I can own and I can run with. And that's what they've done.
Actually, I was going to bring up Alchemized because what I think is interesting is that's the one of the three I haven't heard this criticism about because the publisher hasn't been marketing it this way. But that's fascinating to me because also Alchemized is probably the one that is like the deepest steeped in the actual canon lore that she's probably had to change the most in order to make it fit, because Manacled is, I mean, there's very little that happens in Manacled that doesn't fit perfectly within the canon. Like, she obviously extends it quite a bit, but I mean, the concept of legilimency and occlumency is a huge part of the story.
Yeah.
There are aspects that she is really going to have changed, especially because it's not only based on the concept of Harry Potter, but it's also based on the concept of the Handmaid's Tale. So like, there's a lot there. And then also in most of the marketing that I've seen for it, even though it's not explicitly like, oh, this is Hermione fanfic, she's using Hermione artists. She's really using it as an opportunity to uphold the Hermione community, which I think is beautiful. But it's interesting that when she does it, nobody is upset, but when a publisher is doing it and maybe it's going to get more publicly out there to people outside of our community, people are super upset. And so like, that's why I don't really buy, like, I get what people are saying, but I don't really believe that's the true intention of why you feel a certain way about it, because you don't feel that way about the other one.
I mean, the marketing thing's really interesting because obviously like it did start as a fanfic, but then at the same time, right, let's step into the Fourth Wing universe, right? I love Fourth Wing. absolutely fuck all about that series is original. Like, there's elements from so much. I mean, okay, Baskarth.
Like, it's a unique way to put
Let's
it together.
say, oh look,
but
that's
each element itself
Hogwarts.
is not new.
Signets
Yep.
are just magic without wands.
Yep.
The dragons are interesting. I like that they're there. Xaden and Violet
Mhm.
could very easily be
Mhm.
like
That's
Snape and
recent
Lily,
Feyre.
for
Come
example.
on. Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they could very easily be based on the likes of Snape and Lily or Draco and Hermione, just with some of the elements that's in there. Like, the
Yep.
enemies to lovers set in a school environment is nothing new. And just
Yeah.
because it came from a fanfic that was written about two very well enemies to potential lovers that were in a huge global impacting franchise doesn't make it an issue.
No.
Mhm.
You're not reading Harry Potter. Their books are not linked to that.
No. But also, I think people are truly worried that it's going to come back on the fandom community and hurt them in some way.
Mhm.
And I don't get that. Like, the truth is, I understand that there's a plight that we have, which is like, we love a fandom which is attached to this horrible person, and
Yeah.
we have to sit in that and like constantly. Like, I have a shelf of Harry Potter books, and constantly I get people in my DMs like, well, I can't watch your videos because you have a Harry Potter book in the background. And it's like, okay, fine. That's fine. But I'm also not going to sit
Mhm.
here and pretend that they haven't been a huge part of my life when
Mhm.
I don't like, if she was going to release more of them, I wouldn't buy them. But like, I'm not going to pretend that this piece of my life didn't exist. And I'm also not going to, like, there's no reason to throw the fandom away when people have built so much from it.
You make a really, really good point. And I mean, I totally understand why, like, the fandom are worried. Like, there's a lot of light is being shone on a very, I don't want to say niche segment of the internet because it's not niche, but of course you're going to feel a wee bit threatened, like your close-knit community where you can do the things that you love and you're around people that aren't going to see it as a problem is being blasted all over the internet. But you know what it's like with like the likes of TikTok these days? Like, you say one thing on TikTok, it's out there. Like,
Mhm.
They also, I feel like there is a certain thread of hypocrisy in the community because we want this insular community, but people also want their Hermione TikToks to go viral so that lots
Yep.
of people will read their fanfic and that maybe
Right?
they will get published. And it's like, and I've seen that. I've seen authors who really didn't know that much about the fandom to begin with, who decided to get into it and start writing from that perspective to get more exposure and to practice. And like, there's also nothing wrong with that, but you can't have it both ways. Like,
No.
And
you
you don't
can't-
need to buy
yeah.
the book either. This is the
No.
thing, is like, you talking about how much of an issue it is on TikTok is going to have more of an impact on your community than it is just letting the authors market their books in whatever way they want. Because
Yeah.
you talking about the controversy is going to build a bigger controversy and it's going to shine more light on your area than it would be if you just shut up and didn't read the books to begin with. And you can have opinions, but you can't have opinions about something and then get mad when it shines more light on you.
Yeah.
Another thing I saw that was really funny is I saw one video in particular that was like, that literally said, well, it's because it's the publisher that's doing it and the publisher doesn't know anything about the fandom. Like, they don't represent us.
Well, how do you know?
And I was like, how do you think they got it published? They had to read it.
Mm.
Like,
And
come
also,
on.
like, I mean, within
Do you think
publishing,
that there are not Hermione fans who work in publishing? Like, what?
like, what?
Where do you think the publishers came from, babe?
I think what a lot of
Where
people
do you
think
they
these
got the
days about,
idea to market it that way?
yeah,
Mhm.
I think what a lot of people think about publishers these days is like, when people say like big publishing houses, they sit around in their suits and ties and they have a bunch of manuscripts in front of them and they go, okay, let's talk about this. Can this one make us money? And yeah, I'm sure that there is an element of that. But at the same time,
They're us, bitches.
girly
us.
pops like us work in
They
publishing.
are us. I mean,
And if we build something up so much online, they're going to say, hey, this is being built up. Like, a lot. Maybe we
Yeah.
should look into this. And whether it's from a profitable publishing house like aspect, they want to make money, of course they do. But at the same time, like,
It's also like you're not going to escape the fact that we live in a capitalist society. And if people
Mhm.
can make money by turning something they love into a job, why is that bad? Also, the thing that is really funny to me is that this wasn't even like actual marketing. Like, it was sent to bookstores, and I've seen people say, like, you know, if somebody wants to know about Hermione and they go to a bookstore looking for this book, they know what they're looking for. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, they don't. People's boyfriends will go into the store and be
Yep.
like, all I know is that my girlfriend reads Hermione fanfic and she wants the new book. Like,
Great, there's 3. Which one?
yeah, and
take a
but the
pick.
bookseller needs to know about what those words mean in order to talk to them about the book. Like, that their job is to know what's in the books.
Like, I'm just sat here thinking, okay, my 36-year-old brother-in-law works at Waterstones. He's a manager at Waterstones. He's not gonna have a fucking clue about Hermione fanfic. Like, he
Your
100%
brother-in-law works at Waterstones.
He does.
I did not know this information.
Yeah, my brother-in-law works at Waterstones as a manager, and so does
Love it.
Isaac, my husband's aunt. So they both are like quite integral in Waterstones, but they're not going to have a clue about Hermione fanfic.
Okay.
So if a customer comes in,
Also, like, like, for example, if a supernatural fic was published and I was working in a bookstore, I don't read supernatural fics. So, like, I would need that spec sheet to tell me what that trope is about and what tropes are associated with Destile or whatever, because I have no idea. Like, I don't read that. So, like, what?
I mean, valid pairing, but
Good attempt. Yeah. I don't really think about Supernatural either.
it's Dean and
But, like,
Castiel.
But like at the same time, it would be like imagine.
I'm not gonna say the one I hear
like,
about more because I definitely wouldn't want to be selling that one.
Imagine if someone was like, "Oh, hey guys, you should read this book. This started as an idea because I really wanted Cassian and Azrael to fuck."
Yeah.
And everyone's gonna go feral for that shit because in their head they're like, "Oh my god, guys, like this is crazy." And then it leads back to but would you have an issue with Sarah J. Maas being linked to that? Because she's got a lot of controversy about her, but at the same time, probably not, because ACOTAR's Book Talk's darling, isn't it?
She wrote it.
Like...
she wrote it. She just did. She wrote that Azrael Cassian thing. She just didn't put it out there, which is like the bane of everyone's existence.
Yeah,
angers me.
Her editor and I
got beef.
We have beef.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels to me like a pretty big nothing burger that is a bunch of people being really pretentious about their cute little community and then trying to wrap that in a social justice package, which is like, I honestly just find the whole thing to be so annoying. Like,
everyone loves to be angry online right now.
Like, there are actual issues and problems.
Yeah.
Why don't you focus on one of those?
Yeah, and that's kind of my whole point with, like, have you called your senator? Because it's like, I just see all of these people who claim to care so much about all of these issues, and it's like, there are real people right now in the United States who are being, like, denied due process and sent out of the country to a prison they can't escape. Like, I just feel like there are way bigger issues right now than worrying about whether or not somebody is going to think to reread Harry Potter because of this Hermione spec sheet in the back of Waterstones. Like, it's not, come on. It doesn't matter.
And the books are being published anyway.
Yeah.
So, like
throwing a BF about it, it's not going to change it. If you don't want to read it, just don't read it.
Like, you're saying this is going to shine a bad light in the community. You are shining a bad light on your own community by bringing it up and putting that thought into people's heads. Yes, there'll be an instance of, okay, this is a bit worrying, you know, could this be linked? But the publishers they're not linking these authors to J.K. Rowling. They're not linking their books to Harry Potter. They're saying, hey, it started out as this, So fans of this will probably like this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's very logical. You know, one thing that is 100% free to do is just not buying books. So if you don't like it, you just don't have to buy
Save
it.
your money. Buy the
Yeah.
books that you want to buy.
Yeah.
You want to
I
go read
froze up
Colleen Hoover?
instead.
You do that.
We'll
Because,
judge you,
by the
but
way,
you don't gotta hear it.
also what's funny is I would never have seen that spec sheet if it wasn't for this like drama and controversy. But like the spec sheet was so well designed and cute.
It's so
that
cute.
I guarantee you that people saw that spec sheet making the rounds and went, I gotta find out what book that is.
I'm not gonna
Mhm.
lie, I'm kind of tempted to see if my brother-in-law will nab me a spec sheet if he gets one.
Oh my god!
Like, can
you
I
should frame it?
can
we
can I
have
have it?
Yeah.
It's cute.
Hook a girl up.
But what about the process of writing fanfic? We have on the docket today to talk about what it's like to write it.
Mhm.
Who
Mhm.
wants to start?
I think a good place to start is, out of the three of us, who has and hasn't written fanfic
I have
and
written mine.
published?
Yep, mine is posted.
I have started to write but never published.
I wrote and published.
Hmm.
Mhm.
What ship did we all
No.
write? Oh, come on. You didn't put it out there, so it's fine. No one can
Okay, you have to share now, babe.
You have to, because you made that face. You should have just been like,
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I was writing Dan is Not on Fire fanfiction.
Of course you were. Oh,
I was
babe.
they Dan and Phil picked me off the street and gave me a home fanfiction queen. I wrote
Oh,
like 2
really?
chapters. I don't think they'd even met. And then I stopped writing it.
Excellent.
What was supposed to happen?
I don't know. I was like 16, I can't remember. They were gonna
Love that for
fuck.
you.
See, and then
Yeah,
they
they were.
did. See, the funniest thing is, like, I watched Dan and Phil, don't get me wrong, but the episode that stands out most to me in my mind is when they read a fanfic that somebody wrote about them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm. With their Pokemon, like their favorite Pokemon characters.
Yeah.
And I think Phil's was Beedrill.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Dan's was Goldeen.
I still watch Dan and Phil. I still watch their gaming channel. And I was really upset. I've seen their little stage shows. I've been to see them twice. I didn't see the most recent one, but I love Dan and Phil. And I still love them, and I still watch their
But the
gaming
thing
videos because they're
is,
really fucking funny.
The thing is, nothing else that they spoke about ever that I ever watched is stuck in my mind, but them reading the Pokemon X Dan and Phil fanfic, I can remember it.
I gotta tell you, I had to look up who they were because I forgot,
Mm-hmm.
like just now, and like their faces ring a bell, but no idea what they're about. No, not a clue.
They're
It was
just
just like one of the
funny
British,
YouTubers.
yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Molly? What were you writing?
I wrote a. They're all pulled now. You can't find them unless you go on the sharing resource. I have them. I'm not going to show. They're awful. So I wrote a Twilight fanfic where
I love that.
one of the popular Twilight fics or like tropes is they receive the Twilight books in the mail and they read them.
Yeah.
So I wrote one. Yeah, some are really good. Don't get me wrong. So I read what I wrote one where Bella and Edward both got the Twilight books before Bella moved to Forks, so they were able to change things and shape everything. So essentially, like, the author was a psychic and saw everything that happened and wrote it down. So I wrote one of those. I got about halfway through, and then I was like, "Yeah, no, I lost the wind for that." I wrote a Remus and Tonks fic.
Love, yeah.
Ooh.
which did pretty well, to be fair. And I kept getting like messages to continue, which I never did. And then I wrote Hermione Snape fanfic.
Obviously
Obviously,
there.
it's my pairing, which I turned 4 chapters into my creative writing teacher as an assessment when I was in high school for my creative writing class. It got an A+, but he was like, that was, yep.
A star, but we're sending you for counselling because I think you want to shag me.
Look, it wasn't the worst one that was turned in, because my best friend was also a Harry Potter fanfic girly, and she turned in Snape and Neville.
That's wild. What a rare pair. Woo!
Yeah. So Lauren, if you're out there.
Lauren, we love you.
How iconically unhinged. Like,
Yeah.
you could actually, I could see a really good, anyway. Now my
I'm
wheels
saying
are
nothing.
turning.
Yeah, so mine was the soulmate pairing, so
Of course.
fated mates, obviously.
Love that.
You love a fated mates.
I do love a fated mates. It's my favourite. What about you, Crimson?
Well, I think it's possible I'm the one who has written fanfic the most recently out of us. So I definitely dabbled a bit when I was a teenager, but honestly don't even remember what I was writing or whatever, and those are lost. I don't have them anymore. But when I kind of got back into fanfic much later, like 30 years old later, I also started writing again. And a couple of them are posted. I probably have 6 work in progress, like drafts, and then I have 2 one-shots and a work in progress that's kind of abandoned. And that one, they're all Hermione. That one in particular is kind of a weird idea because it's not AU. Like, it's the magic world exists, their past exists, but it's post-war, and the idea is that Hermione has decided to like swear off magic and live in the Muggle world because trauma. And she lives with a cousin who is constantly like daring her to do silly things when they're drunk. And her cousin dared her. They found out about something called, this is based off of a TikTok, called a chlorgasm, which is when you accidentally have an orgasm while you're exercising. And she has been dared to go in search of this, to prove that it doesn't exist, because she says it can't be real. And so she is not an exercise girly, goes to the gym the first time, and who the hell happens to be the personal trainer she booked but Drake, who is Draco Malfoy, who has also sworn off magic and gone to live in the Muggle world to escape his family after all of his war trauma. And
this sounds so good.
Yeah, and there's like this element as well that is slowly coming to fruition, which is like there's this principle of magical attraction, which is that whatever is inside people that makes them magical, like calls to like, and so out in the world when they're isolated, they will always automatically find each other, and so this is happening because they have completely
it's giving fated mates.
And yeah, so he figures out after a few training sessions, like
I bet they were training.
Well, yeah, there's things going on. And then the other thing is, so he had meticulously researched and planned like how to integrate into the Muggle world before he ran away, essentially, because he had to like gather all of his money and convert it and all this stuff. And he just so happens to be Hermione's next door neighbor. Like, his flat is right next to hers. And she's never noticed for like 2 years. So it turns into like this whole thing, and there's like a lot of original characters in it because he like integrates into her whole friend group, and then there's a plan for like what happens when people start to come looking for Draco. And anyway, it got abandoned as she was learning how to do pull-ups.
Valid.
I would abandon my own story at that point. Yeah.
It is a crazy, because it was like the concept for it when I came up with it was like, okay, this is going to be like a 4-shot. This is just going to be a silly exercise, goofy thing. And then when I came up with the idea of like, oh, he's accidentally moved in next to her, it just took on a life of its own. And then like I have this whole giant plot idea in my head, but it's so complicated for such like a crazy, goofy, unhinged, like fever dream of a concept. Anyway,
I love that.
that's the work in progress that you can totally find on my AO3 if you want. I actually got a comment on it like a month ago where they were like, I really hope you finish this someday, even though it's been abandoned for like 2 years, which was really sweet. So who knows?
Aw.
Maybe I'll get the itch sometime and
Maybe you should just get the itch and just turn it into like a real book work. And then just publish it on KU.
that could be fun.
That could be fun.
I went through this period of a few years where literally nothing could happen in my life without my brain turning it into a Hermione fix. So I have a list of like something like 50 unhinged fanfic ideas that range from seriousness to like, there's one that's like, what if they got assigned to like ministry sponsored housing because they're both broke after the war together, like forced proximity fic, to like, what if they were both really into dog and cat shows and like they ended up at a cat show together, but like Hermione is not serious about it. Hermione is like putting Crookshanks into it because everyone's making fun of how ugly they think Crookshanks is, and she's like, no, he's gonna win cat shows. But Draco's family has been doing them for generations, of course, and he always
Naturally,
wins
yeah.
with his very fluffy white Persian.
Yeah.
But suddenly he's not winning anymore because of Crookshanks.
I love that.
This concept.
That's iconic.
So like, yeah, that happened because I started seeing TikToks about cat shows. So that's how
I love the way your brain works. Literally,
I
just
love the way you.
I'd like to live there. Sounds like a good time.
It's distracting.
But as you can tell, fanfic writing is difficult.
Yeah. People, I think, don't know. It's time consuming. It's hard. I mean, writing in general, I think.
It's hard to find the motivation to keep writing. And it's hard to reach that point where like, okay, where does this go next that makes it interesting for people to read, but also what like make it interesting enough for me to want to write it.
Yeah, because sometimes you come up with an idea, but it's like, okay, but then they live happily ever after and it's over. And like that doesn't make for that exciting of a story if you only have a couple chapters of idea and then they live happily ever after and it's over. Like the best fanfics are the ones that emotionally wreck you, and I think that's really difficult to
pull off.
Yeah.
Now it's interesting to know like about sort of writing fanfics was from your guys' perspective because you've done it more recently. And fanfic, it really is like it's an art in itself. I mean, when the authors write these things, to me, a lot of it compares to like, you know, when you have to stay up all night to do university assignments.
Yeah. Well, what I think is interesting is how it's evolved, because obviously, when fandom on the internet was newer, like most people were just unhinged, writing in the browser, pressing post at the very end, whatever. Now it's intense. So for me, when I was writing even a couple years ago, I was not using a beta. I wasn't even using an alpha reader. I was just editing it myself. But even then, it's like, okay, I write the chapter, I edit the chapter, I think about like, how is this going to fit into the overall story I'm trying to build? Does it make sense? And then I go through another round of edit usually, and like even that is like, it takes at least a week to hash out like one chapter,
especially when that chapter is like 6,000-7,000 words long.
Yeah,
because my chapters were like 6,000-7,000 words long. That's a lot of time.
Yeah, it is a lot of time. And a lot of like a lot of second guessing yourself, and also a lot of like especially one of my biggest pet peeves when I read fanfic is when the characters are actually not themselves, like when they turn into somebody else, because that happens a lot. And so for me, I would end up rereading things a lot and retweaking it to be like, I don't think he would say that just like that. I think he would say it like
Mm-hmm.
this. And like all of these little
Mm-hmm.
things. I also especially like writing from Draco's perspective for some reason. So yeah, like,
And that's kind of one of the reasons why writing fanfic is so tricky, because you want to stay true to the character. Not necessarily the character that the author created, but the character that is what is known to the fandom. I'm not saying that you can't go off that kind of like format, but a lot of the time you want to stay true to it, so it's not necessarily going to fit within your own writing style, like your own personal writing style, or, you know, the style of a character that you would create yourself that is authentically yours. So writing a character that is created or is its own entity and fitting within that tone, within their mannerisms, their characteristics, can be really difficult.
yeah. Yeah, especially while matching that with like keeping the story interesting and keeping the reader hooked, especially if there's some element of like mystery that you're trying to keep alive, while also like I think a really good example in my ship is Hermione can very often be depicted as like a sweet like angel kind of person, and I hate that because she's not like that in the source material for sure, but she was never that for me in any like fanfic that I really enjoyed. Like I see her as a sassy person. And I also think like Draco is often depicted as like being very strong, and I think like he could become that, but if he is that, I need to know why, because he tends to be a whiny character and like kind of should be, and that's kind of the point. Like he's supposed to be multifaceted, and that's the other thing too, is like it is so hard to take a character that you know inside and out, but also like I think it's even harder than starting fresh to make sure they're not flat, like make sure that they have that nuance to them, because a lot of times people only see them one way, and so you have to make them believably whatever other way.
You have to make them real and have a backstory and have their own personal feelings. And I think that what a lot of people always forget is that books like the Harry Potter universe are all written from Harry's perspective. So there's a lot of these characters that the way they act towards him, like that's totally his belief in how they act towards him too. It's all this is how he thinks, and this is how he thinks they're acting towards him. But in reality, the characters
There's more to them.
not be like that. Yeah.
They're also all children that went through a war.
Yeah.
So I mean, there is room for a lot of change, but how do you do that in a way that's feels real, but also doesn't feel like you just need a new person? It's hard. It's a lot of work. And then I'm always so impressed by people who are like very regularly pushing out fanfic, because like they have like a posting schedule. They have like whole communities of people that are like just waiting on them to do these things and supporting them, but also that they're constantly creating for. And I think the pressure can get weirdly huge for some of them, because there's can be so many expectations within this community that you really feel like is kind of family. And I think that's interesting, because I don't know if it's, I mean, I'm sure there is an element of that for published authors, but I think it's a little different because there's more space between you and the community.
They're also making money.
Yeah. Like realistically, it was easy to, I say easy, it wasn't easy, but it was a lot easier to write fan fiction and find the time to do that when I wasn't an adult with responsibility. You know, so like being a teenager and writing fan fiction, it was a hobby, it was something that I could do because I had more time. But now, like, I have a full-time job, I do my PhD, I have the podcast, like I want to spend time with my husband, I want to spend time with my friends. Like there's no way that I could commit to writing a fan fiction on top of that. It's the reason why I don't have enough time, or I don't sit down and write book ideas that I have, because I just don't have the time at the moment.
One of the reasons why I've stopped posting on YouTube right now is because because Crimson has like the craziest job ever, I've taken over the TikTok for a bit for the podcast stuff. And obviously then I do all of our editing. And like I am more interested, as much as I love making little YouTube videos once a month, I'm actually maybe going to try something different, and I'm maybe going to just post vlogs on there. But just post them whenever I finish them rather than just like
Yeah.
having an actual schedule, because I prefer to do this. Like I prefer to do the podcast stuff. You know, who has time for all this? I also work a full-time job.
Mm.
Yeah, I think like the hardest part of being an adult with adult responsibilities is like, I don't mind my job, but like there's like a million things I love to do, and
Yeah.
I really have time for 1 to 2 of those things. So like this is one of them. And fanfic is a thing I love to do, but it's not the priority right now, and so I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Like I would rather
Queen.
spend my time reading them. You know?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like if I'm going to be part of the fanfic community, I'd rather like be able to dedicate time to do that in reading them, you know, and be able to enjoy other people's hard work.
Yeah, also I find this might just be me, but when I am actually actively writing something, I get like obsessed with that thing, and I get like obsessed with that story, and I can't stop thinking about it. And so it actually makes all of life a little bit more difficult to focus on, because
Yeah.
I'm talking to you, but I'm thinking about what dialogue I'm going to put in that next scene that I haven't had time to write yet. And
Yeah.
like, I can't get over those things until I get them out of me. So once I got some distance from it and was able to actually stop thinking in Hermione dialogue 24/7, that actually was pretty healthy for me. So yeah, I don't know. Whereas like my other things, I don't obsess over quite so hard.
Those hyperfixations, lads.
Yeah, just the adult life. Obviously we're getting a little bit into the episode, and we talked about, you know, publishing, and we talked about, you know, writing, but I think the main premise of something that we really wanted to discuss today, and I'm sort of aware that we're nearly an hour into the podcast already, is binding. So the good and the bad, and how it works, and not just fanfic. I suppose binding in general, really. Molly, would you like to give a little explanation of what we mean by binding? Because you have taken a little bit of a step in this direction recently.
It is my newest hobby. Yeah,
It
of course.
is.
It is. So essentially what we mean by binding is quite literally printing or rebinding books into pieces of art, essentially. So if we're talking about fanfic, we're talking about typesetting, so making it look like a book that you would read and buy, and then printing it off, sewing the signatures together, so sewing each individual bit together, and then binding it into a book with cases. Okay, so you can do this with books that you already have. So essentially, you rip off the cover that exists, which is soul destroying, but it has
That
to be done.
scares me.
It's awful. It gives me the ick, not gonna lie. So binding them into whatever theme, whatever, you know, design your little heart desires. Okay, so I've only done 2, but I am like hooked. And I've only rebound books, but I do have fanfics on the schedule that I want to bind. Do you have physical copies of?
What are your little list? What type of things are you looking for?
So I would love to bind Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love, which is obviously the irresistible urge to fall for your enemy. It is. I want to bind Manacled. I want to bind the auction, so all of the ones that are being published. But I also want to bind some of my favourites, Hermione and Pride and Prejudice fics, some probably Twilight fics as well, just so I could have like these beautiful physical copies of some of my favourite reads to have on my shelf.
I love that. And I love the idea of you having like the irresistible urge, and then the mortifying ordeal, like
Yeah.
side by side on the shelf.
Yeah, very nice.
And like
Yeah.
you could rebind the irresistible urge so that it looks like the same binding style as
Mhm.
the bound fanfic, and then they could be put together.
They'd be so cute. At the moment, I think probably one of the first fics I'll bind is either Draco Malfoy or Hands Over Feet, which is the love hypothesis.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not sure. We'll see.
I always forget that the love hypothesis was
It was a Rolo fic.
It was.
I would love Wait and Hope series, like the whole thing bound together as a set. But bookbinding is something I will have to move to get into because in my tiny apartment there is literally no space for that. There's no way. I don't even
Yeah. I mean, I'm very lucky that I have a Cricut, and I'm not a particularly crafty person. But for some reason I've turned into a crafty person. But I got a Cricut to do all of my wedding stationery. So when me and my husband got married, I wanted to save money because wedding invitations are stupid expensive. So I made all of our wedding suits and like the signage and menus and stuff like that. So I have a Cricut, which is extremely helpful now that I have forayed into the world of bookbinding.
So you say you're not crafty, but I've seen your binds, and even your first forays have been really good. Like, it usually takes people a while to get that good at binding. So
Molly says she's
I'm
not
gonna go ahead
crafty,
and say
but
you're
she is a
full of it.
liar. Yeah.
Full of shit.
I think it's more the perfectionist like in me than anything, to be honest.
That's all craftiness is. What are you talking about?
Like, you heard it here first, guys. Molly's lying on the air.
Yeah.
Fuck off. They're all picking on me.
Listen,
What are your recommendations, though, for
What
people who are
for?
looking to start? Where, if I wanted to bind something, where would I start? What would your recs be?
Christ. So I'm honestly not the person to be asking this. I ask M.
Yeah.
So
Our
we
resident
have
binder.
we have a friend, our very good friend in our group that we have adopted. I say adopted. She was Crimson's friend first, and they met on, wasn't it a fanfic group?
Sort of. Yeah, it was actually like a big smut group, and then we were all part of the fanfic subgroup.
Love.
And then we sort of wrote a dreary firehouse fic together, and all bonded over that. Well, we plot bunnied it. We didn't write
Amazing.
it. Yeah, it's like Draco and Harry are firefighters, and Draco's like in charge, but Harry's always taking all these risks and like not following the rules to save people, and Draco gets really mad about it, and everybody thinks it's just because he's such a stickler for rules, but really it's because he's afraid that Harry's gonna die. And then Harry almost dies, and he like gets really angry, and like there's a big dramatic
I'd read it.
sharing their love scene that
I'd read it
before. Anyway,
I'd read it.
And it was quite a fun little exercise. Anyway, so we all bonded, and then I've been friends with this group of people for 5 years now. And at some point during that friendship, we all found bookbinding TikTok, and M and one other person actually did it and now do that, and she has gotten really good in her binds. I think
M is fantastic.
Oh, she's so smart.
Oh, amazing.
She's amazing. So I kind of go to M if I have questions, but I also use the sources that she uses. So she recommends like videos, like YouTube videos and like TikTok videos, and she'll send them, and they're like super helpful.
Yeah, I would say honestly, anyone who wants to get into binding, if you just go into TikTok and type in bookbinding, you will find a lot of resources.
So much.
A lot of people make their typesets available for free, and like once you get into the community, you start to kind of people share things and stuff because it can be a little bit gatekeepy, but it's not bad.
Yeah, so the best source that I found was the amateur fanfic binding group on Facebook. And they have a shared drive of I say every single, most fandoms and then individual fan fictions, and they have all the typesets available and everyone just shares them.
Yeah, I would argue, I mean, obviously I haven't been finding myself yet, but I've been watching these 2 and now 3 people do it for like I think 2 years, and I think typesetting might be the craziest part. Like, so if you don't have to do that part, you're probably going to be a lot happier because the typesetting takes a long time to do.
Yeah. It's the typesetting, and then because I haven't bound fanfic yet, but I have bound a book before. Sewing signatures is time consuming.
Tedious. Yeah.
It's time consuming, it's tedious, and you have to do it quite precisely so your signatures don't end up wonky.
Yeah. For sure.
But yeah, in terms of what you need, I mean, you probably, for like either a basic hardback bind, or if you want to do a paperback bind, you don't need like a Cricut. You don't need anything overly expensive. You could just get away with a printer, or, you know, using one at your library or something like that.
Yeah, and actually for paperback binds, you can even buy the glue strips that people use in the machines, and you can do it using your oven. Like there are tutorials on how to like fake it and do that if you just want to like have a copy on your shelf, but you don't need it to be like a crazy work of art. Because I've seen that before too. Some people just really hate reading on their phones or on their Kindles or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, the internet is your best source, effectively. And other people that have done it, because they can be amazing, and they always have advice. So
I suppose one of the biggest things is don't sell them.
no, don't sell it, don't buy it, for fuck's sake.
Oh my god, yeah, cannot say enough. Binding fanfic or binding other books or rebinding books is not illegal in any sense of the term. Making money off of that is 100% illegal in any capacity. You cannot sell bound fanfic. You should not buy bound fanfic. And also keep in mind that if you are buying bound fanfic, you are also not even supporting the person who wrote the story, because it's never that person who's actually selling it. It's somebody else. So you're just giving money to somebody who's doing something illegal and not even somebody who created the actual art that you care about, which is the story. So don't
just that, but it's becoming such an issue now. It's being sold on TikTok, so it's not even like professional. I say professional. It's not even well-intentioned bookbinders that are doing it now.
Yeah.
It's being processed on a larger scale.
Now that said, technically, if it's a rebind, if somebody bought ACOTAR and they rebind ACOTAR, that's okay. You can buy that, because they've already paid for the book.
It's the fan fiction component.
It's the fan fiction, and also if they printed the typeset themselves. So if I were to make a typeset of ACOTAR and bind that, that is not legal. But if I paid Sarah J. Maas money for her book and then I just put a new cover on it, that's legal.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are exceptions to that. There are exceptions. So you can print typesets for books that are in the public domain. So things like Pride and Prejudice you can get on the Gutenberg Library. You're allowed to make a typeset for that because it's no longer within the author's control.
Yes.
Winnie the Pooh for one as well. Hence why all of the horror films are being made at the moment. That Winnie the Pooh came into the public domain recently. But, you know, the better known, more popular books like ACOTAR, Fourth Wing, you can't typeset and print those and sell those.
I mean, like, gift them to your friends.
Yeah, 100%. If you want to bind
You
a
know?
book and spend that time and do it for your friend, even fanfic,
Or if
do it. By purchasing bound fanfic, you're putting fanfic and the whole institution at risk. Like, there are going to be more people that are going to want to crack down on, you know, fanfic authors writing if they think that someone else other than them is going to make a profit.
And I think what people don't realize is it's not because people say like, okay, well, but ultimately, even if they sue the fanfic author, it doesn't matter. Like, they can't win. She didn't do anything. That's fine. She is still going to have to pay a lawyer. She's still going to be tied up in the court system in order to deal with these problems, which could take longer or shorter depending on the country she's in.
Yeah,
And
trust me. Court times, not something that happens overnight.
And it's going to damage their reputation in general.
Well, and most of these people, you know, they're doing this for free. A lot of them are stay-at-home moms and don't, frankly, have the income to. I mean, there are resources like Archive of Our Own that might be able to help you out, but that's not a guarantee. And so what ends up happening when these cases like proliferate is people stop writing.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, like, that's why you've seen fanfic like fluctuate over the years. When you see massive takedowns because there's so much legal action, people get afraid to do it, and then we get less creativity in the space.
Yeah,
and we want the fanfics. We need them.
do.
They help with the mental sad.
Yeah.
Just don't buy and sell them on the internet.
Don't do it.
Sunday scaries.
Find a new hobby. Get into bookbinding. If you're really that keen on a physical copy, try it yourself. If it doesn't work out, well, you've not screwed someone's life. Okay? Just be a decent human being.
Shall we play a game?
Let's play a game.
Let's play a game. That sounds like a good idea. What have you got for us this week?
So we were thinking we could do a couple rounds of He's a 10, but, and the but will obviously be fanfic related, and then maybe the others can score what they think he is.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
I'm down. I don't know a lot about fanfiction, so I'm interested to see.
Okay. So I'll start. He's a 10, but he has no idea how the internet works, and when he finds out, he's mostly using it because he's obsessed with looking at butts.
What?
What? He's supposed to be researching, but he's looking at butts.
Why? What are the butts doing? Pictures of butts or videos of butts?
Just butts.
All manner of butts.
Lots of cake.
Okay.
Score.
I mean, I guess he's a 6.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I mean, is it your butt he's looking at? Ow.
Well, he just thinks that butts are nice. What's wrong with a butt?
Yeah, he's a 6. I don't really. I'm not mad about it.
Okay. That one's relatively tame. Really? Okay, yeah.
It's also from Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love.
Yeah.
Because he is. The whole time he's using the internet, he's like, butts.
Yeah.
But I could look at butts.
Yeah.
He's a little bit, yeah. He's great.
Butt man.
He's an ass man.
He is an ass man.
Amazing. Oh, God.
Wow.
All right, who's next?
Emmy, did you have any?
No.
Oh, fuck. Oh. Okay. So, I'll start with my tame one first. He's a 10, but he dies of cancer and leaves you and your 3-4 children to deal with the fallout. You then go back in time to before you were even together, and he doesn't have a clue who any of his kids are.
6?
And he has to adjust to having 3 sons and an unborn daughter. And a wife.
How does he take this?
Who is your student? Badly.
Oh.
I'm gonna go with 3 because I hate that I'm pregnant in this scenario.
Not pregnant.
Someone's pregnant.
She was. Not when she went back in time. Yeah.
5. I'm just gonna
I
go
don't-
straight down the middle. 5.
I don't like it.
Sounds like it's not his fault. Everything sucks.
No, but he then
But
has to adjust to
He's not dealing
everything.
with it well.
Yeah, no, not dealing with it well.
Yeah, I'd say like a 5 maybe, because it's not his
Okay.
fault, but he does now need to adjust. But also, no, he's being made to do that, I guess.
Mhm.
So, poor guy.
Yep. Mhm.
Okay. What fic is
Okay.
this from?
Fixing a family. It's a very good fic,
Oh,
but yeah,
sounds intense. Sounds like
it was
too much.
intense. Whew.
Sounds kind of
Okay.
crazy.
Mhm.
I've got one more for us.
Go on, you go then.
He's a 10, but when he goes back in time to try to save you from an awful fate, and you then don't like him anymore, you don't end up wanting to get together with him, he then goes back in time countless numbers of times until he can try to tweak the reality so that you do like him. You just can't listen to a no.
He's an 8. He's devoted, isn't he?
I think he's quite feminist. I'm gonna say,
15.
I mean, a 7 because I love that he's trying so hard, but maybe he should just let sleeping dogs lie.
No.
Mhm.
It's like a 200 for me. Like, he just can't let our love go. I love it.
Okay. And that
I'm
was.
I'm not gonna say what fic that is because it happens in the middle of a very long fic and it's very long. But you should read the Wait and Hope series. It's somewhere in that series,
Okay.
which does feature multiple couples. So
What a
I'm not
tame
totally
game
fucked
this week.
Just wait. My last one.
Oh.
Oh well, then I have a third one that's real dark.
This one's
I spoke
interesting.
so soon.
So he's a 10, but he duplicates your hairbrush to send your hair to him so he can use it in a polyjuice potion, which he then uses with a prostitute so he can sleep with you. Because he's been in love with you for years and you are married to a man who you find out is cheating on you with a prostitute at that same brothel. And you bump into the person that has taken your hair.
Oh, but the original. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
The way
So your
that
hairbrush is a
feels.
portal.
So the hair from your brush doesn't get caught on your brush, it gets caught on the one that's duplicated with him. So it sends the hair to that brush.
It's like a vanishing cabinet for hair.
How do people come up with these ideas, man?
They're genius.
He's a 2. I don't like it.
7.
Uh-huh.
I go
That's
really
two
upset.
different people.
I'm not. I mean, whatever. The hair wasn't hurting me that he took it, and we weren't together, and he was at a brothel for consenting adults. It's a little weird, but whatever. You do you, bro. But it's a little gross. So 7.
Let me throw it in. The madam of the brothel sees you at the brothel and tells you off because you took a potion too early.
What do you mean?
Because she thinks you're the prostitute that's going to take the polyjuice potion. Not the actual person with the hair.
I don't get it. Okay.
I'll send you the fic. It's wanting and waiting.
The madam of the brothel looks at the real person and is like, you took your polyjuice potion too soon.
He's going to
Because
be
the
pissed because
clients-
he's not going to get the full time.
Oh, the drama of finding it out. Yeah. Of course. That's fine. Whatever. Still a
I
7.
still don't want that. I don't want it.
It's such a good fic, guys. Such a good fic. And your last one, Crimson?
Okay. He's a 10, but he will kidnap someone and magically alter their body to look just like you because you broke up with him years ago. And he will also modify their memories to believe that they're meant to be with him and that they need to behave the way he wants them to behave and that they want and also they're in a lot of pain this whole time.
No, he's not on the list.
You still have to give a number.
0. Molly's trying to spin this in a way that she wants to fab him.
Who's the other
She's trying
person
her
that he's
best.
trying to make you look like?
Well, it might just so happen that she turns out to be your daughter. That's also your daughter. But he
Oh,
doesn't know
what?
that. He doesn't know
0.
that until
Like-
later,
like
but then
a-
he decides it's okay.
Oh,
That's not okay.
That's minus.
Well,
You're
daughter?
negative numbers now.
It's so too late at that point that it almost didn't even matter. And you're just like, "Ugh."
What fic is this, babe?
We've done it now.
It's Dollhouse by
It's banned.
Phantonym. It's a
Yeah.
dub. It's not
Banned.
He's not meant to be good.
Yeah,
It's not supposed to be hot. It's a horror for sure.
yeah. That's train wreck.
I'm scared.
I would never recommended for you to read this book anyway. Don't worry.
I want to go
It's-
home.
I ain't fucking doing
Those-
it, and I'm
Those were the
I'm
very
twisted.
seriously cliff notes. It's worse.
You don't say.
That's a no from me.
It's
Thank you
one of
very
those
much.
fics where like you start reading it and you're very quickly like, I shouldn't have read this, but also I can't stop because I have to find
Yeah.
out what happens, and it just keeps getting worse.
Mm.
It's more disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
Give me some recs though, because I would like some.
Okay, so I have a couple.
Mhm.
So I'll start you off with some Twilight fics because while you don't like Twilight, you might like these fics. So
Okay.
they're alternate universe, so I think this might be better, more up your alley. So there is Coming Home by Sarge's Girls. Edward is a soldier in the army, and Bella is a kindergarten teacher, and she has her class write to soldiers. She writes as well. She writes to him because she heard from her best friend's husband that he had been cheated on by his girlfriend. So he sent his ex-girlfriend pictures of all of his battalion's girlfriends to say, pick one. Whichever one's you, pick that photo, which is something that actually happened to a soldier. So it was based on that. And she ends up falling in love with him, obviously. And they wrote to each other, and it's like one of my favorite tropes ever. Then I have 2. So Words with Friends and Words with Strangers, they're companion fics. Edward is a celebrity. He's a big movie star. Think like James Bond, like level actor.
Yeah.
And he goes on a news forecast or like a news show, effectively. Kind of like Jimmy Kimmel or something, and says that he's really into playing this game, Words with Friends, which is, an actual game. It's like Scrabble. And Bella and her best friend Alice are both really big fans, so they decide to try and find him on the game. Alice, they're both in college. They're all in college, by the way. So Bella, Alice, and Rosalie, they're all in college. They're all best friends. Alice goes for his character's name as the screen name for his account, which is ridiculous. Bella uses her knowledge as a fan and picks his favorite number and favorite childhood cartoon character. And wouldn't you know, it ends up being him. But he doesn't know that she knows who he is. She doesn't she thinks, oh, I might find him, but then starts falling in love with this guy, and she starts to piece together that it is actually Edward Cullen, the actor. Alice thinks she's talking to Edward Cullen because somebody answered. Turns out it's Jasper, and Jasper is a 17-year-old boy in high school, and she's like, oh my god, I'm so in love with him. But Bella doesn't tell Alice that she's found the real Edward because she doesn't want to upset her best friend. So they end up falling in love and talking to each other through like Messenger, and they meet and everything, and it's amazing. So Words with Friends is her perspective, Words with Strangers is his. Amazing fix. Highly recommend.
I love that. That actually does sound pretty good, I'm not gonna lie.
So good. And then some true to canon fanfics. I Remain Yours is a fanfic which is essentially kind of like the Lake House. So Bella gets a desk from a estate sale and finds a letter in one of the drawers from Edward back in 1917, before the influenza. And it turns out this desk can transfer letters back and forth, so they start writing to each other. Bella finds out through the letters that the Spanish influenza's hit and that Edward's dad is sick. And that's the last letter she gets from him. And she thinks Edward is dead, but Edward has actually been turned into a vampire by Carlisle.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, and then Bella ends up moving to Forks. She's heartbroken, obviously, because she thinks that this boy that she's fallen in love with is dead. And obviously there's no way for them to be together because even if he did survive, he's like 90, you know? But no, he's actually a vampire, and he gets his memory back of, you know, these interactions with this girl through this desk. But it's really good. Highly recommend. And then the last one for Twilight is the Book of Twilight. And essentially the Quileute trap the Cullens in a book. And they're in this book and they think that they're just living their life, but in actuality they're stuck in like this portal. It's a book where the Quileute tribe are trapping vampires. Bella is spending time with Jacob after just moving to Forks, and she goes into the attic and stumbles across this book where she reads and ends up being sucked into it and turns up in the Cullens' house. And it ends up being that she ends up revealing to them that they're stuck in this book, and they have to find a way either just for her to stay in this book so she can be with Edward, or for them all to get out of the book.
That's insane.
And then just a quick drive by Wanting and Waiting, which was a fic that I said in the game. Highly recommend. Fixing a Family is another one. Traumatic, but highly recommend. One called Savlius is one where Hermione and Severus's son from the future goes back in time using a time turner, like a special time turner, and turns up stuck at Hogwarts while his mum is still a student in her last year and his dad is teaching. And it's before the war happens, and they're having to hide this boy and come to terms with not only did they have a son together, they had some sort of interaction that created said son, and how do they get from being teacher student to that?
I love it.
Fucking amazing. And then Bundle of Joy is a post Hogwarts fic where Hermione is getting on. She doesn't have like a romantic partner, and she's like, I just want a baby, so I'm gonna post in the newspaper searching for a wizard to have a baby with. And at first Severus sees it and thinks this woman is whack, like she's completely nuts, why would she be doing this? And then volunteers for the role.
Icon.
Yeah, and then they end up arranging a meeting before they go ahead to, you know, have said
Make a
child.
baby.
And it turns out that she's his former student and he's her former professor.
Okay, could you send me this? Because this sounds really good.
Yeah, I'll send you all of them. So those are my recs. Enjoy.
Amazing.
I have so many more, but time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I had a few. They're all Hermione. That's just
Naturally,
what I
yep.
breathe.
Of course.
So we have to start with the elephant in the room, the big daddy of the ball that everybody knows about. We have to talk about manacles because
Yes.
it will truly alter anyone's brain chemistry. The thing
Mhm.
with manacles, I'm not going to say too much about it. Everybody knows this is like Harry Potter meets The Handmaid's Tale. It's basically a reimagining of what would happen if Voldemort won the war. But more than that, it's actually a reimagining of what if Draco's mission in book 6 was successful and was successful quite early. And so it changes the world quite a bit. And the thing is, I cannot stress enough that this is one of the darkest, quote unquote, happily ever after fics I've ever read. And it's quite long and so quite a commitment. And if you don't like reading things that make you sob uncontrollably, even when you're not reading them, it's probably a bad idea to read this.
Oh yeah.
Because you will start hearing certain phrases in the world or see origami figures and want to burst
Start
into tears.
crying. Yeah.
Yeah. So just fair warning, but if you are into dark, very emotionally impactful things, then this might be for you.
I did not like it.
You
Yeah.
didn't finish it. You didn't get to
I think I got like 20% through.
Which is a good chunk, don't get me wrong, but not
Yeah.
the point where things start happening, if you get me.
Yeah. Nothing makes sense yet where that is. Yeah. It takes a while. It's fair. But I wouldn't recommend you read it either because I don't think it's your cup of tea.
Probably not.
I don't think you'll be happy at the end.
No.
Yeah. But my other recs are not quite as dark. I do highly recommend Breath Mints and Battle Scars by Onyx and Elm. It can be a bit difficult to find sometimes, but it's worth it.
I have it. I'll send it to you.
I mean, I have it, but it gets taken down with some frequency. I don't know if it's up or down right now, to be honest. So it is basically an 8th year fic, which is what if Hermione realizes that Draco is just as messed up as she is. Everybody else seems to be okay after the war, and they are very much not okay. And they sort of bond over this, but also engage in some pretty toxic relationships. And there's also a really interesting side plot going on the whole time. And there's like a forced therapy thing going on where like you don't get Draco's POV, but you get these really interesting journal entries, and it's like a very cool storytelling mechanism. Really good fic if you were into like late teenage angst, post-war drama kind of stuff. My next example could not be more different. My next rec would be Bring Him to His Knees, which is a murder investigation undercover situation in which Draco is an Auror trying to investigate a series of murders, and in order to do so, he needs a partner who will pretend to be a sex partner at a sex club with him. And
wow.
Hermione signs up for the job, and eventually it's not fake anymore. So that's a very fun one that also has a murder mystery vibe to it. The only thing about that one that drives me crazy, but most people don't mind, is Ron Weasley is not mentioned a single time in this fic. It's like he doesn't exist. It's super weird. But that's
not mad about it.
I like when there's some bashing. We need him. We need to address that he exists so that we can be mean to him.
Fair.
I would also recommend anything by Morrigan Mercy. Meet Your Match is a really great starting point with them. I also would recommend Everything Else by Sin Lee Yu because she doesn't only write dark, she also has an incredible amount of like really sweet, fluffy fics that are super fun. Library of Alexandria is only 8 chapters, and literally it's Draco and Hermione trapped inside of a pocket realm in a library. It is so much fun. And there's also my last favorite that I'll recommend, which is the Wait and Hope series. I love the Wait and Hope series. My actual favorite in the series is Beginning and End. That fic also kind of altered my brain chemistry a little bit, and it's just a super fun time. And there's also a side fic in it with Theo and Blaze that is chef's kiss.
Amazing.
Cute. I love
We've
it.
all got some things to read now. It's great.
We sure do.
I can't wait.
Pay attention to our socials because coming up very, very soon, we have a Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love buddy read together. So we'll do a deep dive into that.
Do.
Before we get the absolute pleasure of reading The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy when it releases. So keep your eyes peeled.
And we will do a combo episode where we discuss them
100%.
both. And if anyone's interested in the current drama, we'll have all the tea on how much they line up.
We have so much drama, both related to the book and not.
Just in our own lives, really.
just life in general, really.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys about fanfic. And learning lots. As I said, I like when we do episodes like this because I learn lots of things, which is nice. But what I really want to know before we leave for the day, what are you reading this week, Crimson? What are you reading this week?
Zodiac Academy.
Which book are you on? Are you on book 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to kind of smash through book 2 this week in between work and then move on to book 3 with the girly pops.
We can do some sprinty sprints this week.
Yeah.
As usual.
I will actually be free this week as well. Love that.
I'm not dying.
I'm not dying.
Oh, I love that.
So much in our sprints.
We have. It's been like weeks since we properly hung out because Molly's been so ill.
Mm-hmm.
It's not been fun, guys. I finally can sleep through the night, which is great.
Proud of you.
That will help a lot, I think. But what are you reading? Now that you're like alive, what are your reading plans? Are you going to tackle anything more hefty now that you've got the brain capacity?
I need to finish Queen of Shadows. I'm 60% of the way through. I need to finish it. In addition to that, I am hoping to finish The Demon's Queen today. Don't think that's going to be an issue. I'm like over 20% of the way through. It's very good so far. But as I said, I'm kind of on like a monster romance kick, and I'm kind of feeling like the orc romances at the moment. So I have on my TBR is her name 2 seconds, Crystal Luna. She has a series called The Brides of the Moonblade Clan. Ooh. And the first one's called Bound to the Orc Warlord. And it's a Grumpy Sunshine Married at First Sight book. So I'm kind of excited for that one. I also have Halfling by S.L. Wendell. I know that she has like a monster romance cozy fantasy series, and that's the first one. I also have Demon's Bride by Lee Miller. Her series, she writes monster romance, and I found her the other day literally, and she has a book coming out that looks freaking amazing. It's kind of like, it's marketed to be The Bachelor, but she is on a hunt to I think find her brother, and she ends up on this island where this monster version of The Bachelor is being filmed, and she ends up being a contestant.
What?
I love it.
I'll let you know about that one. And then I also have The Court of Nightmares by K.A. Knight, and it's a vampire rejected mate story, and it ends up being that she goes on a rampage, gets this like blood disease that should kill her, but when she's taken to like their vampire court, she's offered the chance to become a member of this court to judge people, and she ends up finding a mate in the 7 other judges that are there. So it's a reverse harem. So monster romance is basically what I'm doing this month. I also have some arcs that I need to read. So I have Tusk Love by Thea. I can never pronounce her last name, and I'm not going to butcher it, but she wrote The Hurricane Wars.
It
which
looks really good.
It looks amazing. It's a Critical Role, which is a D&D series. It's a Critical Role story. So I'm very excited to read that one. I also have Netherthorn. I have an arc of that. I have an arc of The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy. I have an e-arc of that, so I should probably get on that. And I have a couple of others that I need to get to as well. So that is my plan. My NetGalley response rate is up to 70 though, so I'm like proper proud of myself for that.
That's great.
What about you guys? What are you reading?
Emmy?
Well, you'll be glad to hear that other than like the books, like my new fairy lit books and like the books that I'm not allowed to read until my birthday, like the new books that I get on pre-order and things, I am now under 100 on my TBR. I'm now at 92.
Get you! You absolute star. Look at you.
So there are a couple of books that I'm looking at. I need to read Queen of Shadows. But I am actually going on a 2-week trip. Well, it's how many days? Like, I think it's 12 days. I'm going to be away for 12 days in May. So I'm hoping to get through maybe like 5 books in that time because that seems reasonable for me. On my May TBR this month, I'm looking at it because I've got my phone up here. I've got the Magnolia Parks, the first one. Because I was
about to say, I bet Crimson has something to say about that.
Crimson did not like that series. No. But I do have all of them. I think they're this way behind my head somewhere. Oh no, they're there. The pinky book at the bottom of this stack.
They have very pretty covers. I will admit that.
I also I really want to read Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake this month. I want to read book 6 of Zodiac Academy. I really want to read Dragonfall. I don't know much about it, but it looks really good. But I've got a couple of romance books. I've got like not in my books on the list. First Time Caller and The Chase are both on the list, but I've read those already. So, but part of me just wants to take like the entire Briar You series by Elle Kennedy, just binge the whole thing. Okay. So my TBR might go out the window. So, but I am reading Iron and Embers right now. I want to finish that. I'll probably finish that tonight and tomorrow. And then I don't know. I'm not entirely too sure. Okay.
Look at us successful girlies.
I know, right? Well, I think we'll call it a day, you know?
Let's do it, Babs.
So, thank you so much for watching or listening, whether you're on our Spotify. Our Spotify's been popping off this week. Our Saturday Mess episodes have been doing very well. And when this comes out, I believe Crown of Midnight will be out.
Amazing.
So, go and listen to that, because it'll be a lot of fun. We'd like you to go and listen to that. We're having a lot of fun over there. But if you're looking for any of our links, they're all linked in the description below. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and then you can actually listen to our full episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube if you want to look at our beautiful faces while you do that. But thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in next week's episode. See you in a bit.
Bye, guys.